Hello there and welcome to this educational video on 5 myths about fat loss for footballers. So what we're going to be covering is 5 myths about fat loss that I see so many players get mixed up on, waste time on, waste money on. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover these 5 things so that you don't make these mistakes and fall for these myths. So that you can get a more efficient, long-term weight loss achievement from avoiding these mistakes. So number one is that there are no magic diets out there that are going to help you lose weight more effectively or more efficiently. Okay, all diets work by creating a caloric deficit. And what a caloric deficit is when your calorie intake is lower than your calorie maintenance or the calories you burn that day. So you're bringing yourself into a slight energy deficit. And through this, you're going to be burning excess fat storage. Okay. Below, I've listed out a few different diet types that a few people like to go up. So you've got the likes of keto, you've got the likes of intermittent fasting, paleo, vegan, Atkins, and all these do is create a caloric deficit by removing different food groups and stuff like that. For example, keto removes carbs, which I highly do not recommend if you're a footballer because you want to fuel yourself to perform. And if you're removing food groups, you're just going to limit your energy intake, which is going to lead to fatigue, energy loss, and risk of injury. So, what I advise for any footballer is to create a diet with a well-rounded approach and not go for any of these options. Okay. Number two is that you shouldn't diet like everyone else. Like you need to remember that you're an athlete and your primary goal is your performance. If you are going to diet like everybody else, which everybody takes to the extremes, if you're putting yourself into a big calorie deficit, like energy levels are going to drop drastically, you're going to feel fatigued, and you're going to put yourself at higher risk of injury as well, which we don't want to do when we're athletes. Number one, we want to perform, and then we want to look our best, and we want to get leaner. Okay, and we can do both things, but we need to be different with our approach. So we need to create a smaller calorie deficit so that we can still keep energy levels high, and we need to strategize about like when we can have higher amounts of calories. So we want to bring our calorie intake up like the day before a game so that we have more energy for that game. And then throughout the rest of the week, we bring ourselves into a slightly more deficit. Okay, so we don't want to diet like everyone else. We want to diet like an athlete and we want to make performance our primary goal. So don't diet like everybody else because whenever it comes to the demands of your sport, you're more likely to throw your head up because you're going to be tired, you're going to be fatigued, and you're going to have to go out and perform, which is just a recipe for disaster. So we need to have a more strategized approach than Wendy, who works in an office and doesn't play sport. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be different with our approach. Number three is that this is one I used to fall for, fasted cardio. So just because you go out in the morning and you haven't ate and you go for a jog, you're not going to elicit a higher rate of fat loss. And here's why. Fat oxidation and fat loss are two different things. Yes, of course, whenever you do training fasted, you are going to be using fat sources as your primary fuel source. But just because we're burning fat as our fuel source doesn't mean we're going to be losing more fat. Okay, and here's why. If you're still eating in a calorie maintenance or a calorie surplus, you're going to stay at the same weight or gain weight. And here's why. All that's just going to be replenished whenever you get in, you lie up, and you start stuffing your face. Okay? So it's not going to matter in that one period. Okay? You need to make sure that you're in a caloric deficit throughout like a large period of time. And by doing this, it's not going to make any difference to that. I hope that explains that. So don't be falling for fasted cardio. It's not going to help. And in fact, doing cardio fasted is going to limit your ability to perform whenever you're doing this cardio because you're not going to have that energy reserve there in like your glycogen, your carbohydrates. So the intensity of session is going to drop. It's not going to be as good. You're not going to feel as good. So you're not going to like really get much adaptation from that training session. So what I suggest is fuel yourself to perform, okay, instead of doing the complete opposite, which is here, which is not going to help you at all. Okay. There's no shortcut. Stop trying to take these tiny missed shortcuts that I'm going through at the moment because they're short lived, they're not sustainable, and they're not going to help you achieve your goal. Okay. And number four, massive one, okay, is supplements because there are so many marketers out there who know how to hit this pain point. Like you have the likes of your fat burners, your cleansers, your juices, all these different things that like have just fat loss printed all over them, and they do not have any sort of properties that enhance the rate of fat loss. So we need to be clear on that. Like it always comes back full circle. Fat loss is created through a caloric deficit. Okay, and we need to do that through a diet, not through supplements. Okay, so like the fat burners or just caffeine pills, juices, and cleanses just create an extreme calorie deficit through like just not providing as much energy through those debts. Okay, so it's important that we're clear on this. Don't waste your money on supplements. Don't waste your time because like you can do some damage doing it. I know people who have done like damage to themselves through supplements. So like highly recommend. We need to just take like a realistic macro like approach to things here. Okay. We need to just think like adults whenever it comes to these things. And like these shortcuts, they do not work. And they're just going to lead you down a rabbit hole of going in and out of shape constantly. Okay. Yes, they may get you a quick result. Some of them, like the juices and the cleansers and stuff like that, but they're not going to be sustainable and you're just going to yo-yo up and down out of shape. So we need to stop that from happening. So yeah. Okay. Last one is you can't spot reduce body fat. Like you can't just pick where you want to lose the weight. Okay. Like for example, I would have clients come to me saying, I want to lose this gut. I want to lose the fat in around my arms and around my stomach, chest, whatever the case may be. But what we need to be clear on is you can't spot reduce body fat. You can't just pick where you want it to go away. Okay, and here's a good example. Say, for example, you have a bath and you fill that bath with water, and then you take a cup and you're like, I want to remove some water from this area of the bath. You dip your cup in, and what happens? The water level goes down, but it goes down throughout like the full level of the bath. Like you don't just take water from one area, and that's how fat loss works in our body too. So it works overall. So as well with that, so whenever it comes to fat loss as well, like it comes down to genetics. Like some people just hold fat in different areas. Like for example, some people hold it in their chest, some people hold it in their arms, thighs, stomach, gut, whatever the case may be. Different people hold it in different areas. So like you might find that you have a more stubborn area, which is probably the one that you're saying you want to lose from. And that's normal. As long as you're staying consistent in your calorie deficit, over a period of time, you will lose body fat in that area. It just may take a wee bit longer in that specific area, just down to genetics. And there's nothing we can do about that. And it's okay. And as long as we're consistent over a period of time, like you will get a result in the end. And that's something you need to be clear on. Like, there's no point sitting in the gym doing like crunches, tricep extensions, all these kind of things to target these areas because that's just going to promote a hypertrophic response. And it might even make you look a wee bit bulkier in that area because you've added more muscle tissue to that area. But you need to be losing body fat in order for those areas to reduce. And we do that through calorie deficit. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that I've cleared up any like things that you thought may be a way to go about the approach. And if you do need more help, feel free to reach out to me on socials. I'm Dylan.performance on Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz. And if you want some more help and you haven't picked up any already, I'm going to drop down a link to get my footballer's fat loss guide below. So go into that. That's going to give you everything that you need to get the best result possible whenever it comes to weight loss as a footballer. So go get that now if you haven't already. And if you already have it, make sure to go back to it and use the steps in that. All the best, guys. Hopefully, this was helpful.